I'm going to talk to you about something a little bit different, but it does cross over the two worlds. Games is playing an increasing part in how people learn, and video games is the business that we are in. And before you all panic and say, oh, that's horribly risky and everything else, I should tell you that we don't make video games at all. What we do is we provide services to people that make video games. In fact, we provide the services that every game has to go through in order to make it to the market. So we're effectively the picks and shovels of the video game industry. The video game industry is very large. It's about $90 billion. We all hear that it's many times, or certainly bigger than Hollywood. That's certainly true. Games themselves have a lot of content in them. It's a very complex product. It is a very awkward sometimes interface between very rich content and some very complicated technology. So when you're working on these products, and indeed the products themselves have become services, there are a lot of sort of intricate technology challenges to be solved as well. What we do is we follow the game life cycle with our services. When we came to market, I think, Paul, we had 3.5 service lines. We today have 6. So we start the process with art. Believe it or not, everything you see in a video game has been created by somebody. Currently, 50% of that work is outsourced by the developers themselves. So people think, well, hang on, if the developer's not creating this themselves, what is the developer doing? But rest assured, they're increasingly outsourcing this art creation side of things. And that can be characters that are running around the screen. It can be fixed buildings, landscapes, vehicles, you name it. Audio services, games contain audio. Some of them contain a lot of audio. A game called Halo has 40 hours worth of audio in it, which compares to a typical movie, which has probably got about an hour's worth of talking in it. We translate games, and when I'm talking about translation, it's very important to understand that this is not a question of making games understandable. It's a question, obviously, of making games enjoyable. So the form of translation and the way in which you approach it and the people you use to do it is very different from the approach you would take to translate a machine, an automotive manual or a washing machine manual or something like that. And again, it's very big. Last year, we localized about 150 million words. The Bible has 750,000 words in it. So we're talking about a lot of scale. Functional testing, this is where we've got a bunch of young guys sat in secure facilities playing games before they're released to try and break them. It's trying to find out whether the games perform as designed. We always laugh that our testers should pay us to do this work. And you know, not surprisingly, we don't have any problems in finding people to work for us. Localization testing is fairly similar. Again, we have lots of young people sat in secure facilities testing the content that has at that point been localized. So it's gone out, it's got dubbed audio, if you like, it's got the translated content. The game's been functionally tested, so it should be reasonably clean. And then we're using native speakers that have, number one, it's not a trivial thing, but they've actually got to be good in their native language. And there are a lot of people, myself included, that's not that great in English, let alone in any other languages. So they've got to be good in their own language, and they've got to be good in English. And in some places like Tokyo, we expect them to be good in Korean, Japanese, and English. And these guys test the game to make sure that everything's in context. And then the final service, games, as I said, they live in live. The reason it's important to keep customers happy when they're playing games now is that it's not simply a question of playing the game for 2 weeks until you get through Call of Duty and you put it on the shelf and you don't pick up Call of Duty until the next release 2 years later. Now, you start playing a game and you remain playing the game for a period of months, even years now. So it's important to keep players engaged, and if you keep players engaged, you can keep selling them and keep making money out of it. So customer support service is important. Who do we do this for? Well, we do it for pretty much everybody. So we have 400 clients. We pretty much concentrate on big clients. So there are thousands of companies making games. A lot of them are 1-2-man guys working in their mother's basement or something. We don't play in that market at all. So it's the more established companies that we work with, and we do work with them across the globe. So our clients are typically on the West Coast. They're in Japan, they're in China, they're in Germany, France, and the UK. 20 out of the top 25 game companies are our clients. And some of them that have made it onto this list in the top 25 don't really produce their own games anyway, people like Apple. So, we're not too worried about the fact that we're not selling them anything because they don't have anything we can sell them. Mobile games, I haven't mentioned it, but when I'm talking about games, I'm not just talking about console games that are played on an Xbox or a PS4. These are games that could be played on a handheld device. They could be played on a PC. They could be played on Facebook. As long as it's a game, we provide the services for it. Looking around the room, I'm not sure I'm seeing many avid gamers here, but some of you might have children or grandchildren that play games, and you might be familiar with some of these names, but it's just a smattering of games that we work on, and we're not by any means trying to represent all the services we provide to all the games. What I would say, which I found quite interesting, just the other day I was told that one of our guys had done a tally of the top 50 games in the UK, and we've worked on every single one of them. When we came to market in 2013, I think we had 5, maybe I've got it wrong, maybe we had a bit more, maybe we had 6 or so locations, but for us it's very important. So what we're doing in our business is we're making ourselves the go-to provider for these services. The industry is actually relatively immature. It's only about 20 years old, and it's developed in a very imbalanced way where you have very large multi-billion-dollar game companies making and selling games on a global basis. And on the services supply side, you've got a myriad of small players that provide a single service, usually by a single geography, by which I mean a single country very often. So there are hundreds of players in this field, but no one, like Keywords, no one has set about actually creating an organization which a big Activision or an Electronic Arts or a Sony or a Microsoft can actually say, I want to strategically contract with these guys to support me in all of my services around the world. So geographic expansion has been important for us, and we've been very successful at doing that. And whilst we're doing that, we're actually growing the businesses that we've acquired, or indeed where we've opened organic offices, which we have done as well. We've been successful at growing those. Just going back to this again, some people think, oh, that's fantastic, they're everywhere. That's a nice balanced business, and in fact, we have something like 40% of our revenues are in dollars. I must mention this because it's a fairly important day. If any of you have got trading accounts open, if you're looking for a Brexit hedge, 40% of our revenues are in dollars, about 35% are in euros, 9% I think are in yen, and 3% are in pound sterling. So we're not very dependent on the UK economy. But that creates a complex management challenge, right? So we've invested heavily in our management team. A lot of this management actually comes from the businesses that we've acquired, and we've elevated them. We've taken them from just managing their own business to managing a part of the total Keywords business. And they manage the 6 service lines on a global basis. So they have that complete focus. And then we have an overlay of a regional and a country focus and a studio focus. And it's working very well. And it's given us a lot of capacity to carry on doing what we're doing. In terms of our acquisitions, and I haven't got a lot in here on acquisitions, but this is just from 2015, this information I'm sharing with you, and you can see, I think it's 7 acquisitions we have done, done to date from the beginning of 2015. And the year before, I think we did 4 acquisitions. So we do make a lot of acquisitions, but that's on the back of some very strong organic growth as well. So in 2015 over 2014, we grew organically 23%. Last year, we grew 20% organic growth. And we obviously continue to be acquisitive. You know, when you're faced with such a large and very fragmented market, it seems rude not to take advantage of it and to lead what should be a very obvious consolidation. And you know, all of those acquisitions have performed well. They've all been earnings accretive, some of them fantastically so. And they've all brought something new to the group as well, either increased capability, increased geographic reach, enhanced management, and so on. Financial performance, bear in mind that we are making acquisitions, so these numbers are not very illustrative of, if you like, the underlying run rate. But our business last year, we recorded revenues of 58 million. Obviously, the underlying run rate was a bit higher. If you look at today's run rate, the run rate today is probably about 90 million euros, maybe a bit higher than that. So there's strong growth. We are nicely profitable. I'm the CEO. I always like to see more than we ever generate. I think that represents about 13%. I like to think our business can generate 15% profit before tax on an adjusted basis. We also pay a modest dividend, but a dividend nonetheless, which I think is a good discipline to have. And we're pretty good at converting our profits to cash, so our cash generation is running at about 85–90%. We're fortunate, in addition to Amati, to have a very strong list of investors, which has been very helpful. So every time we've come back to the market, and we've done so twice, we've been very pleasantly surprised by the amount of demand there is for our stock and the support we get for the placings we've undertaken. It's a nice business. I thought, you know, you guys might want to see some numbers. I'm not going to go through them all because I don't have the benefit of my finance director, but I might just point out a couple of things. Our gross margins are running at about 37%. Bear in mind we're purely a services business. That doesn't feel too bad. There's a bit of blend in there. Art services run at about 45%, and our low gross margin business is our customer support business, which is around about 25%. The rest I've already told you about. Cash, we started last year at 17 million euros. I'm pleased to stand here and tell you I've spent it all already. We've made some good acquisitions. We've also taken on our first serious credit facility. So we raised a credit facility which we can use for acquisitions and general working capital purposes from Barclays Bank, which is for 15 million euros. We also don't spend too much in CapEx. So we're basically spending in CapEx more or less what we depreciate every year. There is, anybody that is interested in studying our numbers, there's one thing you need to be aware of, that in Montreal, in Canada, where we have about 600 people, at least in the busy times, we get 37.5% of our labour cost, our direct labour cost, paid by the Quebec government. That's nice. The problem is they take about 18 months to give us the money. So we always carry an accrual for the grants that we receive over there, which is obviously not cash. So as a business, in fact, we should talk about this because I think nobody here could have escaped the fact that virtual reality is something big that's dawning right now in 2016. So a number of companies, Facebook, Valve, HTC, have launched virtual reality devices. It's obviously big news for the gaming industry. I think it's actually even bigger news for people like the learning market. It's big for architectural practices that want to show off their next skyscraper. And to do that, people need to use game engines, at least if it's going to be fun. If it's just going to be a 360-degree walk around, I'm not sure it's that interesting. But as long as you're going to be able to press a button, go up in the lift to the 72nd floor, go and have a look out the corner window, look at the view, check your furniture, then that's where our worlds start to collide. And virtual reality really makes a lot of content interactive in a way that it wasn't before. IKEA has now got a virtual reality kitchen, so you can play with an IKEA kitchen in virtual reality. No idea why you'd want to do that. But if you do, visit the Valve HTC store and download it. What to expect for us this year? It's business as usual. Expect us to continue to grow organically. That's what we're focused on. Expect us to continue to make good, selective, earnings-enhancing acquisitions. And hopefully continue to generate good shareholder returns. This is what the analysts, the consensus of analysts is showing for our business moving forward. And again, I would just stress that it doesn't include the effect of acquisitions. Because we're short on time, I'm just going to finish with this chart. So keywords really, and I think it's increasing. It's funny how I'm still coming across people that are still discovering keywords. You know, we've been around for 3 years. We're obviously pretty rubbish at marketing ourselves because a lot of people still haven't heard of us, even in the analyst community. What we represent, I think, more than anything for investors such as yourselves, or indeed Amati, is a way in which you can play in a very large, growing industry, the video games market, $90 billion, growing 8% a year, very complex. What's going to be the next hit? What's going to fail? What's going to be the next platform? Is virtual reality going to take off or not? Frankly, I don't care. What I care about is there's more and more content that's being consumed in this interactive way. And that's where we play. So it's an access to a very complex but large growing market that we provide, and there's no other play like it.
We'll just take a couple of minutes. I want to give anyone who wants to ask a question to either company an opportunity. We are a bit short of time, but please feel free to ask if there's something you felt that wasn't covered adequately. Yeah.
Does keyword think? Because you said you are in so many areas, who is your main competitor, or will you be snuck up upon?
The answer is that a competitor is emerging, I think is the right way. So there's a Japanese quoted company called Pole to Win. In fact, it trades on the Tokyo Stock Exchange under the name Pit Crew Holdings. And they are doing something a little bit like us. Not as fast, not as broad, but they have made a few acquisitions. So, and I don't know them, I don't speak to them, but I can only assume they are trying to do something similar. Which in a way is sort of comforting, so it's not it's not only us that think that this is a good thing to do. But other than that, it's very, very fragmented.
Thank you. Yes.
These two companies benefit from inheritance tax exemption if you invested in both these companies.
I'll just repeat the question. That was the question about whether the companies benefit from the inheritance tax relief, the business property relief that's available on many AIM companies. Do you know the answer to that question?
We do. We've been asked it before, and yes.
Yes, I believe we do. And I'm hoping we do, because it's part of my inheritance tax planning as well.
Yes. Any other quick questions? Yeah.
It's a general question, but probably applies more to keyword. You said your main market is in the United States of America. Are you at this moment quivering in your boots when Obama says that you will be the last in the queue for a trade deal?
Well, no. We're listed in London, but our corporate office is in Dublin. We contract with our clients either through Ireland or directly in the countries where they're present. So either in the US or in in Japan or in China or wherever. So no, I'm not quaking in my boots. As an individual, I'm quaking in my boots, but not for keywords. I think keywords is very well positioned actually for this. I don't honestly think that the video games market itself is going to be terribly shocked by, whether we remain in or out.
I agree.
Any other questions? Yes.
How do you keep your trialists from spilling the beans?
Very, very good question. So we are dealing with games that sometimes cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make, and we get to see those before they're released. And if we get it right, which we do, we get very passionate people to work on the games, and you try to match them as best as possible with the game. So you're going to get somebody that is the most incredible fan of Batman games, working on Batman in one of 2 or 3 locations around the world, probably. And of course, the danger is that that person, not from work, I'm pleased to say, because all the internet connections and everything are blocked, hopefully. They're not going to do it from there. They're not allowed to take their mobile phones in. They're obviously not allowed cameras and so on. But outside of work, some of these passionate individuals find it very hard to control what they're saying, despite all the training we can give them, including reminders of that it's very damaging for their jobs if they do this. But yes, you're right, and it's a challenge that it's not unique to us. Our clients suffer from it as well. So leaks are important to minimize, and if they happen, you've got to manage them very, very effectively and in a very open way with the client so that you mitigate any damage. I have to say it's rare. It's not. It does happen, but it's rare. I'll give you a funny example. Happened a few years ago. It's probably about 4 years ago. It was one of our clients, Bandai Namco, and one of our guys, exactly this, French tester, passionate about, I can't remember, one of these manga games. And he went home and blogged about what he had seen, what he was doing on the game. The client got to see this because they're obviously monitoring the forums and so on about the game. They went ballistic. We went ballistic. We found the guy. I don't know how we found him because he was using a pseudonym and everything else, but the IT guy tracked him down. We fired him. We sent legal letters to him and his family. And just after having done that, the client gets back to us and says, actually, could you keep the guy doing that, please? It's creating a lot of interest. So we joke about it, but no, it's a serious issue, and we do spend a lot of time training and retraining and emphasising the importance of confidentiality. And given that we've got about 1,700 people, and as far as I know, we've probably had half a dozen incidents like this over the last 3 years, it's pretty good.
Great, thank you very much to both companies. I wanted to say that we at Amati have tried to go to great lengths to add as much as we can to our AGMs. We've hopefully introduced you to 2 of the senior management teams of 2 of AIM's most interesting and exciting companies. We managed to persuade David Cameron to organise a referendum on the same day, just to add a bit of spice. But most importantly, after the interval we're going to take shortly for refreshments, we have the Amati, Guildhall Amati Creative Entrepreneurs Award, where we've kind of got a partnership going with the Guildhall, where we're trying to support, we're helping to support, I hope, a fabulous venture which the Guildhall's embarked upon, to setting up a course to train the entrepreneurs of the next generation to launch new artistic ventures in the country. As you know, we're holding the AGM in what is one of the country's leading teaching institutions for the performing arts. And we'd love it if you can stay and hear presentations from 3 companies that are on this course, and we'll be having an award, and they'll present what they're doing, their companies. We've got an interesting panel of judges, and I hope that will be something you can enjoy as well. Please remember to fill in your feedback forms before leaving if possible. Otherwise, send us an email tomorrow. That's equally fine, or in a couple of days. And let's break now for some refreshments and give a round of applause to both companies for excellent presentations.